Hello, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to my new series, Global Evolution of Law Practice Management, where I will be engaging in meaningful conversations with some of the most respected managing partners and law firm leaders from around the world. This series is born from a passion to share those insights and bring together voices that inspire and challenge conventional thinking. And speaking of such voices, it is my absolute honor to introduce our first guest, Mr. Jerry Riskin. He is internationally recognized lawyer, author, and management consultant. He is the founder of Edge International, a pioneering global consultancy that has been working with law firms for over 40 years. Jerry began his legal career in 1973 and quickly rose to become the managing partner of his firm, both in Canada and Hong Kong. His unique background in both commerce and law has enabled him to bring a strategic, business oriented approach to law firm leadership long before it became a trend. He is author of The Successful Lawyer and other influential works, co-creator of programs like Practice Coach and Rainmaking, and advised leading law firms across the globe, including North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and India. So here we are again with you, Jerry, to pick your brains on another topic, and so hopefully we should have an interesting conversation on this one too. So we are going to today discuss succession planning, and you're going to tell us everything that have experience on how succession planning is done in other countries, and I will tell you about how it is in India and how we actually need succession planning. It's not how we do it here. I think I would put it the other way around. I would say Indian firms need succession planning. So I'm going to now ask you, how succession planning happens in firms, and is it different, the different size of firms, or is it the same, and does it succession only happen through retirement?
Your question is very interesting when you talk about firm size and so on, because and by the way, thank you for having me as your guest for this discussion. The fact is, I believe that the better leaders are doing something about succession.
Oh.
Usually they have some idea of business, or they have backgrounds on a board or whatever, and they understand the real world, I call it. Some people who are very insulated within the legal profession, they're wishful thinkers. It'll all work out. And
they think that they will live forever. They will live forever.
Yes, the better leaders are doing something about succession planning. It's a difficult area because there's some dilemmas. For example, one dilemma: should we have an age at which people should retire,
right,
or at least should offer to retire? Now, some firms have decided, okay, we'll have an age. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's say it's 70, 75. I don't care. They pick an age. Then they ask these people to please retire. And sometimes these people have gone across the street to a competitor and brought their genius, to confront the very firm where they grew up.
Right.
That's so silly. So these have to be reasoned out, and they have to be thought through. There have to be the kinds of retirement where we can keep people of value on, and they can continue to make a good living, and so on. And there's some other issues. I don't know if you want me to go to those issues now.
Yes, please. I need to know more about succession planning from you.
One of the challenges, my experience is mostly in quote unquote the West. I'll just use that phrase. There are a lot of people who are getting older, but they don't have a lot of money. They don't have as much money as they thought they would have. Now, sometimes it's because their third marriage has more children to pay tuition for. And sometimes it's the stock market, I'm sorry, is not behaving. It's declining. But the point is that they're not as wealthy as they hoped they would be. And so when we talk to those people about retirement, they're scared. But they don't want to say they're scared. They don't want to say, well, I can't afford to retire. They don't want to say that, but they cling to their practice, and they resist discussions of succession. And so leadership has to take this into consideration and has to be realistic. And I also want to raise a psychological issue, which I believe is huge. As a lawyer, where do I get my self-esteem? Where do I get my feeling of worth?
Right.
From the fact that the phone rings or the emails come or whatever. I'm in demand for this mind and this experience I have.
Right.
The idea of retiring and going to play golf or mow the lawn or whatever is scary, because how will I feel valued anymore? So this is not always conscious.
Right.
This is sometimes subconscious. So when we approach succession planning and retirement, there's a deep-seated fear and anxiety, and the person doesn't even know why they're experiencing it. Now, there's one more area I'd like to touch on briefly with succession planning, and that is, you're getting on in years. You should bring the junior lawyers along, introduce them to the clients, make sure they have good relationships, and so there'll be a future with our better clients. Well, that makes sense, except once again, a lot of fear in there. Wait a minute, you want me to put my... Sorry?
No, they may walk away with all those clients and relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want me to put my best clients on a silver platter and hand it to a junior lawyer, and it's very scary. So one of the things I have found is when you're dealing with a senior person who is starting to think about succession planning, you want to be very interactive with them about which junior lawyer or lawyers do you trust. And are you comfortable to introduce to your better clients? So number one, who? We're not just going to tell you, well, it should be X because we think it should. No, they have to participate in choosing. Number two, what's the deal? Like if I put my best clients on a silver platter and I hand them over to a junior lawyer, the next day I come in, do you say, well, you've been very valuable around here, but you don't produce much anymore, so we're going to drop your income dramatically? Or are you going to work out with me? No. We are going to respect the value of what you've handed over in transition, and we're going to make sure you're reasonably well looked after for some time to come.
Right.
So those are the kinds of issues. I've had meetings with several great firms that are combined in an organization, and they say, how do we confront this? I'll give you the punchline.
Yeah.
The best practice is confront it early. For example, if you think people should think seriously about retirement at 60 or 65 or 70, talk to them when they're 55.
Yeah.
Early.
Right.
Just broach the subject. What are their thoughts on this? Some younger lawyers, to my surprise, they say, hey, look, 5 more years and I'm out. I don't want to be practicing law after I'm 60 or whatever. So it's good to talk to them early. So that's almost, Bithika, everything I know about succession planning.
Okay, all right. And do you have also where firms are being run by the family and the next generation, they want them there? Of course, when they are lawyers, I'm saying. So how does it work? Like, are they looking at people to manage the firms who have managerial experience more and probably better to succeed, or even a brighter in their legal areas also? So are they considering them? And how does, when you have founders and the next generation coming in, have you experienced this kind of situation in law firms in the West, and how do they manage it?
Well, just a couple of things. It is much less common in the West.
Okay.
Much less common for it to be a family-dominated firm. In fact, in the West, there's a lot of resistance. We call it nepotism. There's resistance to the children having power. So it doesn't happen as often. but it does raise two tangential things just to slide in here. One, some of the best managers of firms in the world are not lawyers.
Correct. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, magnificently well-run firms that are winning, growing faster and are better than the others, are led by people from other industries. That's one interesting factor. The second thing is, I came across recently, and it was a real eye-opener for me. In a firm that's very progressive and thinks ahead about succession, said to its head of administration, you must plan for your succession as well. Well, guess what? The head of administration for that firm is not your typical law firm administrator.
Right.
That person came from IT, was brilliant in technology. Secondly, took over the accounting function to supervise it. Well, how do you replace that creature? What do you put, an ad in the paper? Someone who's great with IT and accounting? Good luck. So this is sometimes a very customized process. And last point on that is, sometimes it is not going to be one person who replaces a key individual. It might be a team, even if it's a small team. Yeah.
Right. So also you find that a lot of managing partners who are called managing partners are not really the owners, right? They're not necessarily the owners, and they are also maybe not practicing law. So do you find that more in the West, that they are not practicing law and they are managing partners? What is that you've seen there, the West?
I've seen what you're describing, Vithika. In fact, I tease a little bit about this. I say, try to find the real leadership in a firm. Good luck. Because if you think it's the managing partner, to your point, Vithika, it might not be. The managing partner might be someone that the power partners have put in place to run the place, but they do not give up control to that person much at all. So the managing partner may be more an administrator, really, too, than a real leader. So it's so different firm to firm, depending on its history, its culture, and so on.
Okay, so as far as retirement age is, so is there any standard on that in the West about what age generally they put for retirement, or it's still like different firms have different age?
Yes, I think it is. I call it a mess. I remember in England, when firms first started to try to impose an age, some of the British lawyers fought back, said, you cannot do this because it's a discrimination. It's age discrimination, and there were real problems. So it's a delicate. Well, maybe the answer is like everything else we talk about, Vithika. It's you once you know your culture, once you know your people, you organically create a process which is acceptable.
I think that's a very good point that you have said, is that succession also had to come from within the firm, and you need to plan, not when I think age also makes a difference. I won't say which age you need to start planning, but you need to look at the age of, and like you said, not only of the founders. In India, what is happening right now is most of the founders are managing partners. So because the firms are also not that large. But it's slowly changing, but this is still very much there. So my issue of succession planning that I'm talking about is different, I think, what is happening in the West. So here is when the founder is there, he's also the managing partner, he has started the firm. So his leaving the firm will be different, than those people who are not the owners or the founders, and they are just kind of employees of the organization who are then succeeding each other. So there we can understand, you look at their technical expertise or their other capabilities to succeed them over a period of time. But in India, we have founders who are managing partners, and they have started the firm. So their sentiments, the way they think about the firm is different, because they always feel that they will think more in the interest of the firm than a person who is probably hired and is is kind of thought to succeed the firm. So anybody other than him or his family, if somebody is, they're thinking of asking them to succeed the firm, is really not them, because they have founded the firm. So there is a difference between you taking over a firm from a founder and being a founder, right? So any thoughts on that, or anything you've experienced like that, like you said, but in West, this is not the case, right? Because the firms are very large over there.
Nothing really except to agree with the wisdom of what you've just said. I think you have it exactly right for the context that you're describing. You said earlier in the conversation something very wise as well. You talked about we're not immortal. We have to plan for succession. And what a good firm does, I think, and this goes a little beyond the traditional discussion, is it thinks about the fact that it's like disaster planning. I'm sorry to have to even bring this idea into our minds. What happens if that very promising junior lawyer or junior this or junior that suddenly can no longer practice law? Do we have a plan? And by the way, the idea of sabbaticals, I just want to slide that in here, because sometimes the powerful senior people, they never take a vacation. They're never stepping away. So their junior people never get a chance to do anything. Sometimes some firms are pushing their senior people, take a 3-month sabbatical.
Right.
And let your team learn how to manage the client work.
So I like it, and I think we will end it over here by saying this one line, that nobody is indispensable, right? So nobody is indispensable. Life goes on, and of course, but definitely we need a succession plan. Sooner you think about it, the better. And I think we must have also should think of retirement age. And of course, and for all the wealthy lawyers who are wealthy, can easily retire faster. I think anything you want to say?
No, that was a beautiful summary. I think one thing we can put in our imagination, imagine if we were owned by a very wealthy company, and imagine if they had a board of directors that looked after our leadership and made sure we were doing the right thing. They would say to us, tell me what your plan is if heaven forbid something happens to this person or that person. And if our answer at the moment would be, I'm embarrassed to say I'm not sure, then we better dig deeper.
Very, very thankful again to be with us here to explain concepts of succession planning in the West. Thank you so much, Jerry.
Thank you. Thank you.